And welcome to The Retirement Architect. My name is Cynthia Defazio, and I'm joined today by David Reyes. And David is founder and chief financial architect of Reyes Financial Architecture. David, how are you today?
Good. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic. It's a pleasure to see you.
Thank you.
I'm just so glad that you've taken the time actually to come in to do the show, because I know you've been so extremely busy.
We have actually. Yes.
Absolutely.
Very blessed to be very busy. I'll take it.
I think so too. It is definitely a blessing, and it's such a testimonial, because I know that you've started with the radio show. You actually still have that going.
Yep.
And of course now segueing into TV. So let's talk a little bit about that. A lot of people need information on how to retire properly. And why don't you think that they have that before actually calling into the radio program, or now today the television show?
Yeah, I just think there's just a lot of misinformation out there, kind of like life in general. And doing this for my 25th year, started in '95, so hopefully we get a little better with age, right?
Sure.
And you know, most people just don't have a plan at all, let alone a written plan. All of our clients have written retirement plans.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many folks just kind of wing it.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of scary to me that that's the case. And so anytime I can teach, whether we do workshops or a radio I've done for almost 2 decades now, and we've done some television, very happy to be doing this show now.
Yeah.
I think it's just important. It's too important, and there are just a lot of things I think that are missing out of a lot of plans for clients. You know, cash flow. When you retire, it's about income.
Sure.
And believe it or not, that's just a focus that is really not there on how people are building their retirement plans, and so that's concerning to me. So anything I can do to be a messenger to help people to have more successful and stress-free retirements, then I'm all in. So I'm happy to be here.
Oh, David, thank you. And if someone is just tuning in for the very first time, let's talk about where your passion comes from for helping others. Why are you so dedicated to that?
Yeah, well, I started again in the business in '95, moved from Sacramento to San Diego, love it here. But that same year, my grandfather passed away. He had been in a nursing home for going on 4 years, and you know, lost everything. You know, all his retirement savings. He'd worked for Sears and Roebuck back when that was a thriving company. He was a television repairman when that was a thing, believe it or not. And I remember he used to go behind the television and change the transistors or whatever the heck they were. Drove up in his white truck with the red letters, the Sears letters in the van, and I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and I remember that. But it sticks in your head. And when that happened, you know, when my grandfather was very frugal with his money, and losing everything to a disease like dementia is devastating. And that insult to injury, one day I remember my mother called me, and she'd got a notice from Health and Human Resources, I believe, and they put a lien against the property. And very few people understand, once you qualify for Medi-Cal, Medicaid across the United States, if you have assets remaining, they actually put a lien on the properties that you have. Yeah. And the house, it's in Fresno, California, where I was born. $50,000 house. I mean, small, very, very, you know, not a big deal, but $20,000 lien. And so not only did he pay into long-term care, had to or pay for his own long-term care, then got benefits that he had paid in for, but had to pay, you know, to get those to cover those costs. Sure. And so I had to hire a lawyer and went through all this crazy stuff, because my family's looking to me as this financial expert, which I wasn't. My first year in the business, knew nothing. Right. And long-term care is its own animal, especially when we get into the laws of Medi-Cal and Medicaid. Sure. Long story short, we saved the house, which was great through some planning. But the fact is that it really taught me a lesson, and really focused my attention on preservation of capital first. So that was a big motivator for me. And so we've always focused on protecting capital, creating cash flow that clients can't outlive, specifically for issues like stock market crashes and long-term care costs. And so that's really shaped almost like a depression baby, you know, with the banks going under. So it's served me well, because it's helped me to protect my clients during difficult times. So, you know, sorry that my grandfather had to go through that, but I think it's really helped. I've been able to use that to help clients to have better outcomes. Absolutely. David, let me ask you, in your opinion, is it still the #1 fear that people are facing retirement? They're going to run out of money. They're afraid that they're going to outlive their income, if you will? Absolutely. The #1 fear is run out of money. It reminds me of Jerry Seinfeld. He said people are more afraid of public speaking, like what we're doing right now, than dying. And so he would say, well, people are more afraid of giving a eulogy than being in the pine box, you know. And we're more afraid to run out of money than dying. And so it's kind of similar. It's funny, but the fact is that it's the #1 concern that retirees have, that you have, but it's probably the biggest problem I see in retirement portfolios. There's no plan for income.
Yeah, yeah.
And unfortunately, the advice they're getting from our industry is poor. It's, don't worry about it. The market will come back, unless you're spending down capital during times of stress in the market, during the COVID crash or 2008, when you start spending down money during those time frames in your retirement, you're selling low. I mean, you're selling at losses that are built into your portfolio. So most people don't have a plan to deal with that. And the crazy part is that we don't need to earn 10% rates of return per year to have great retirements. You can earn 4, 5, 6% a year consistently, you're going to be fine. And unfortunately, most clients' assets are just positioned so aggressively and they don't really realize it. That it's kind of like, going 100 miles an hour to a trip when you can go 45 or 50 and get there, and just have good at a time, but be safe. So
sure.
It's part of what drives me to help people to really to challenge the beliefs that they've been taught or that they think that they know. And unfortunately, as an industry, we've done a poor job of helping people, and so it's part of what drives us to help people.
Absolutely, because you have such a passion for making sure that you have a customized plan developed just for that specific person that you're sitting with. And I think that's what makes it so amazing, is that you take the time to listen and you gather the information. And again, it's not about just bringing statements in, right? Because that's not a plan. A plan is going to show them how they're navigating through all of life's changes. And that's really what you do and you develop.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point about statements. And I'll say, well, what kind of retirement plan do you have? Well, I own this, that, and the other. I said, well, an investment plan is not a retirement plan.
Yeah.
It just isn't. And that's a problem, because unfortunately, clients are relying on that advice they've been given, that if you're diversified and you own this much stock and bonds, you have a 60-40 balanced portfolio, that you're going to be okay. And unfortunately, that's just not the case. And so every client's different. We reverse engineer. We call it Begin with the End in Mind. It's an old book I read, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, back in the 80s and 90s. My favorite book, actually. I was 23 when I read it, and I began with the end in mind. It was always I brought that to financial planning and retirement planning, because we have to. If an advisor comes to you and says, "Hey, this is the best investment ever," then run out the door, because he's selling you a product. They have no idea your cash flow, your taxes, all that kind of stuff. Do you care about leaving an estate to your children? What are other issues? Do you have health care issues? Do you have long-term care expenses that you may want to deal with? And so the fact is that we have to reverse engineer every plan, begin with the end in mind, and then we're going to backfill the investments that are going to satisfy that level of income that's needed. We want to have the most amount of income, we say, with the least amount of risk and never run out of money. With the most amount of income, the least amount of risk, and never run out of money. So that's my job, which is what I do every day.
Yeah.
And that's a totally different job than saying, here's the best mutual fund.
Oh, sure.
It's completely different.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, that's just what people have, and that's their perception of retirement planning. So we love to help to undo that, and to teach people, how we see the world. We have a slogan in our firm. You retire once, we retire every day.
Yeah.
And it's true. I'm 53, but I've had hundreds of clients retire, and so thank God it's worked out well.
Absolutely, because when you hit the retirement years, as you know, of course, David, you are the expert in this, you're responsible for creating your own paycheck, if you will. Right. You've been working all your life, you're getting a paycheck, every week or every other week, and then all of a sudden, that's gone, and you're left to do it all yourself. Yeah, and it is, and back in the day, when pensions were more prevalent, and that was not as big of a deal. Social Security and pensions were pretty much, that was what you had, and now it's a lot more difficult, and probably only about 20% of my clients have a pension. Okay. And for them, that's just a gift. That is a blessing, because it takes a lot less stress off of the portfolios. And so when you don't have that, which most people don't, you really have to be more precise about what you're doing. Looking at taxes, Social Security, inflation, which I think is going to be a big problem coming up. I really finally believe, after 20 years of basically disinflation, or no inflation, or low inflation, that we're probably going to be now, looking at inflation and as a piece of that I'm going to be more laser focused on, as far as planning for clients, that I haven't thought was going to be as big of an issue. So just having, the experience and time, and being able to look at these things and look around the corner, because a lot of planning is also, we need to look around not what's happened, what can happen. And so I think inflation and taxes are going to be a much bigger issue going forward. And unless you're involved at a high level with real total retirement planning, estate planning, tax planning, my partner's a CPA, we have our own in-house estate plan attorney, we're serious about this stuff. And so investments are just a means to an end.
And so again, when we begin with the end in mind, we will then have the proper plan to fulfill that obligation of having the most safest retirement possible, so we can take the least amount of risk possible to have the lifestyle that we care about.
Absolutely, and enjoy retirement and just have fun with it.
Absolutely, isn't that the idea?
Absolutely. Well, David, this is the perfect time for us to go ahead and open up the phone lines to the viewing audience at home. To the viewers at home, the number on your screen is 866-739-3775. If you have $500,000 and above in assets, David is able to do a complimentary retirement review for you. Let him take a look at what you currently have in place and make sure that it's the right plan for you, not only to weather today, but also 5, 10, even 20 years from now. David can design a plan that's going to suit your retirement needs. Again, the number to call is 866-739-3775. We have a lot more coming up on how to retire safely and comfortably with David when we come back momentarily. Thank you so much.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
And welcome back to The Retirement Architect. My name is Cynthia Defazio, and I'm joined today by David Reyes. And David is founder and chief financial architect of Reyes Financial Architecture. David, a lot to get out there. I wanted to make sure I said it all.
You got it. Thank you.
So we were talking a little bit in the first segment about taxes. So I want to ask you, in your opinion, what do you think? Are taxes going to go up in the future?
That's a yes.
Okay.
What do you think? How about that?
I think yes.
Yeah, I tease clients. I ask them that. We have the lowest tax rates we've ever had, really, in the history of our country. And corporate tax rates, personal tax rates. If you just go back to the 80s, really, the mid 80s, you're talking about doubling of taxes. If we just went back on an inflation-adjusted basis. So, we increased the deficit by $2 trillion in 6 months this last year.
Yep.
And there's going to be a price to pay for that. Low interest rates are another problem. But we're going to have to keep interest rates down to pay for this debt.
Sure.
So it's a whole other issue with bonds and interest rates and cash flow for retirees. But taxes are a big deal, and I think taxes are going to be, they're going to be in the crosshairs. And so we want to do everything we can to help to mitigate taxes. I can tell you, as a rule, I would say our average tax that our clients are paying in retirement as a married couple is about 12-13%, so quite low, through some planning and some other things that we do. So we're always focusing on taxes. Again, my partner, Julie, is a CPA. She came from the audit side, and so we pay a lot of attention to taxes. It's an expense. And it's something we can control at a certain level. And so short answer is yes, I think taxes are going to be higher. And I think it's something that clients can, with the proper advice and planning, can really use to their advantage and do some things to be proactive about helping to reduce taxes during retirement. Okay.
A lot of people think that taxes are going to go down when they retire. Is that true or no?
Probably not.
Okay.
Typically, the long time your taxes go down. I mean, yes, theoretically, in not getting too technical or getting too in the weeds, but when you're dealing with brackets, so the higher, more income you have in a certain bracket, the more tax you are paying. But the tax rate you pay Typically, clients are going to retire in a same tax bracket. Some a little bit lower. Depends if you're single versus being married. I mean, married folks and what state you're in. That's a whole nother issue. We're in the great state of California.
Yeah.
We have our capital gains tax rates over 30%. It's the highest in the world, behind I think Denmark.
Okay.
So capital gains is high, and so state income taxes are as high as 13% here. And so as a single person, paying 20-25% taxes as a baseline, making 100 some odd thousand a year, and if you want to have a good retirement, you're probably going to pay the same amount of taxes.
Okay.
So we just want to make sure at a minimum that we're not paying more taxes in retirement. And so the things that we can do, a lot's changed, but the fact is that at least the window we have for the next few years, we have some idea what tax is going to look like. And so I advise clients to at least look at planning opportunities in that window, over the next 4 or 5 years to be able to do some planning proactively.
Okay. As far as a comprehensive retirement plan, David, can we talk about the different pieces and parts? I know that we've talked about, obviously, you have the estate planning person in your office as well, but also talking about taxes. Of course, that's one piece, but what are the other pieces of a true comprehensive plan?
Yeah, so what we do when we sit down with retirees, pre-retirees, is we're going to first do a review of everything they have. We're going to look at the risk that they're taking in the portfolio, number one. So first we got to take stock of what we have.
Okay.
What's the risk we're taking on? Most people are taking on way more risk than they think they are. Sure. If somebody has a balanced portfolio of stocks and bonds, in 2008, they would have lost about 35%. That's if you have $1 million, you would be down $350,000.
Okay.
And so people are taking on more risk than they think. Secondarily, we're going to look at fees people are paying. Most individuals own mutual funds. The average cost of a mutual fund, according to Barron's, is about 3%. Think about that. On $1 million you own on mutual funds, you could be paying $30,000 a year in fees.
Wow.
So look at fees, expenses, taxes, all those things. And so those are part of the foundation of just kind of where are we at. But then part of the planning is going to be, first is going to be income. Again, we want to drive, you got to have a income plan, you got to have a cash flow plan. Taxes, how do we mitigate taxes, both income taxes, estate taxes, taxes on the sale of real estate, things like that, especially if investment property. Long-term care, obviously, is another piece. That's under our asset protection umbrella. How to protect our assets against really health issues, things like that. Taxes, obviously. So we want to look at taxes. We want to look at long-term care, cash flow, risk, fees. So there's a lot of things. When you have a real plan and you're really kind of turning over every rock, there's a lot that goes into it. It takes hours and hours of planning to really do it. And unfortunately, most people are not, luckily that's out of a job. But that's something that really takes a lot of really experience and expertise to do. And it's multidisciplinary. You need a collaborative effort to really do. I can't do all this stuff myself. We have our own Medicare expert. There's all of our Medicare supplement plans. That is a client of mine, and that's what she decided to do in her second career.
Nice.
And so I think you have to have the desire to want to do it. It's a lot easier just to put together a nice little pretty pie chart and say, here's your investments, and move on to the next client. I think it's a lot more difficult. It takes a lot more, I think, desire, will, patience, to really want to delve into all these other areas. It has to be a labor of love for sure.
Most definitely.
But so it's something that over time I think you develop. You went to school for a lot of this stuff, but you don't learn any of this stuff. It's all on the job.
Right.
So planning is, and having the written plan in the key. You got to have a document. Here's what I've got. Here's what I can spend. And people hold that like gold. I mean, I have clients that go to retire that they'll call me, David, my boss was mean to me today, but I don't think I want to work anymore, but because I know I can retire.
Yes.
Right. Some people love their job, but part of it is just having the ability to retire.
Sure. Right.
Or whether something happens. So some people are blessed enough where they love their job, but maybe they can't. They can't work anymore. Maybe one day they decide they don't because they don't like their boss or whatever it is. So having that plan in your pocket, so to speak, can give you the freedom of feeling empowered to be able to say, hey, if I don't want to work anymore, then I know that I don't have to.
Absolutely. And then, David, once you are able to put a plan in place for someone, how often do you recommend that they review the plan with you to make sure that it's working properly for them?
I like to see clients a minimum twice a year.
Okay.
I'll probably see my average client a couple times a year. If they're closer to retirement, maybe more. But I would say we reach out to clients if we haven't seen them we'll do reviews once a year at a minimum. I think twice a year is better. But again, if somebody's closer to retirement and they're talking the next year, I may want to see them more often. But if you have a real good plan and it's well thought out, you don't need to visit it every month, right?
Yeah.
But a couple times a year is good, at least once a year, to do a full review of here's where you're at, here's what your real estate's worth, here's the tax are looking like. Again, are we going to do some tax planning this year? Are we going to decide? So that's a big reason is taxes. Maybe there's opportunities that year to do some planning that we didn't think of, whether it's estate taxes or whether it's income taxes, capital gains taxes, maybe some giving that we want to do, some charitable giving. So I think from a tax perspective, I think annual reviews are important just on that alone. Even if the investments are fine and everything else, I think the taxes should be revisited every year.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay. This is the perfect time for us, David, to go ahead and open up the phone lines for the second time this week.
Yes, good.
To the viewing audience at home, the number to call is 866-739-3775. Again, 866-739-3775. If you have questions about your retirement plan, let David take a look and do a complimentary retirement review for you. Again, if you have $500,000 and above in assets, it's going to be something that benefits you greatly. The number to call is 866-739-3775. When we come back from this very short commercial break, I'm going to have more questions and answers for David about how to plan your perfect stress-free retirement. Please stay tuned.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to The Retirement Architect. My name is Cynthia Defazio, and I'm joined today by David Reyes. He is founder and chief financial architect of Reyes Financial Architecture. So good to be back with you, David. And I love how we were talking during the commercial break about what the experience feels like when someone comes in for the very first time. So let's share that with the viewing audience. What can they expect to feel when they first come in?
Well, we try to do like a spa-like. We have a water feature, and
Nice.
we have, I have all women in the office, so that's on purpose. So I wouldn't know what to do. But no, we want to make it as pleasure as as stress-free as possible. It is intimidating sometimes to do that. You're exposing yourself with your finances, and
Sure.
and we take that seriously and want people to feel as comfortable as possible. So really relaxing. I would say we're just gonna have a conversation.
Yeah.
I would say it's conversation. No
Okay.
talk. That's it.
Yeah.
We all need, I always say I'm half camp counselor, half advisor, because a lot of, you get very personal with clients and a lot of things but that's what drives us to make decisions or not.
Sure.
And so we want to make it as inviting as possible and as stress-free as possible for clients to, and I think we've achieved that. People comment on the office and they like, we have clients just come by and we have their favorite drinks in the refrigerator, and we do. So it's kind of funny. They get bored. Oh, we're going to come by. I'll be, the client come out and there's 2 clients in the hallway talking to our staff, and so we have great staff and great people, and we're very blessed to have what we have. So it's all because of our clients. So we want to make the experience as positive as possible.
Okay.
For people that come to see us.
Okay, so very relaxing, kind of just getting to know one another, if you will. Is it about an hour consultation, David? Does it run longer?
Usually it's probably, I would say, closer to 90 minutes.
Okay.
I block out 2 hours for every prospective client, everybody that chooses to come see me. I don't want to be rushed. I don't want to be.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to really get to know somebody. Everybody's interesting. I want to get to know people's stories and what drives them, what's important to them. And so to do that, you can't have, okay, we have 45 minutes for a meeting. I just won't do that. I've just learned over time, I don't want to have that kind of stress. I don't want the client to feel like, oh, do we have to get out of here? No, 2 hours, we're good. Usually 90 minutes.
Okay.
And in that time frame, I can get to know a client, see if I think I can really help. Because if I don't think I can really add a significant value to that family's situation, I'll let them know. I'll give people, I would do this, and this, you'll probably be okay. Now that's rare, but if that's the case, then I don't feel I can really raise the bar significantly to change their lives in a high level, whether it's income or risk or taxes, or usually it's a combination of all of those. Then I'll let them know. But it's pretty easy to find out if you listen, because I always say the planning is easy. The most important part is the conversation I have with the family. So, and I think as you get older in the business, you appreciate that even more and more. Doing that for long enough, it's not about me. It's about you. So, so it's fun. It's interesting to have the opportunity to meet people and help them.
Absolutely. For the first consultation, David, do you have a list of documents that they would need to provide? Is it on the website, or what does that usually look like?
Both. You can go to our website at reyesplan.com, and if you go and you want a second opinion from our firm, that's all there. But basically, you fill out a very basic intake. We like to see things like your tax return, for sure. We're going to look at your taxes, no question. Your statements, any insurance policies you want us to look at. But really, if you have your tax return, Social Security statement, your investment statements, and you fill out a basic questionnaire, that's all I really need, because again, we're focused more on you in that meeting, less on numbers and facts and figures. But if we go past that point, then obviously we'll delve into all those fun things.
Okay.
So pretty straightforward, again, conversation. Okay. Not an examination, a conversation.
Excellent. Definitely just getting to know one another.
Yes.
If someone's in the viewing audience today, David, and they're maybe, 10 years away from retirement, what advice can you give that viewer today?
Plan today.
Okay.
Now. 10 years is a good demarcation line for debt. If you have a mortgage, doing some tax planning, risk management, fees, 10 years is a great time frame. So I would say go see somebody now, and don't wait. Everybody thinks they always do it too late. Now is the time.
Absolutely. Well, I cannot believe how fast our time goes together, David, because again, it's just a wealth of information that you're giving to the viewing audience. And I know, of course, with the radio show, the TV, and now this way of reaching people as well with this program, it's just amazing. And people are just so receptive, and they can't wait to hear, what you have to say. So thank you so much for all of your time today. It's been just an amazing opportunity. So again, let's go ahead and open up the phone lines.
Thank you.
To the viewers at home, the phone lines are now open. The number to call is 866-739-3775. If you have $500,000 or above in assets, David is able to do a complimentary retirement review for you. Again, the number's on your screen, 866-739-3775. Be safe, be happy, be blessed. We'll see you soon.